What started as a reality TV fairy tale quickly spiraled into one of the darkest fan controversies the internet has ever seen. Two strangers met on national television, fell in love in front of millions, and became overnight stars. But almost as fast as the spotlight found them, the backlash began. What followed wasn't just criticism. It wasn't trolling. It was something deeper, more targeted, more dangerous. Fake videos began to surface. Private information got leaked. Death threats were sent, not just to the couple, but to their families. And in online forums and secret group chats, rumors started to spread. Rumors that fans weren't just angry. They were plotting something. How did a romance on a dating show escalate into full-scale digital warfare? How did two people looking for connection end up at the center of conspiracy theories, racial controversy, and harassment allegations that might cross into criminal territory? This is the story of Nic and Olandria, the fan-favorite couple from Love Island, USA who captured America's heart, and then became the target of one of the most toxic backlashes in modern reality TV history. And trust me, what you're about to hear is going to change the way you see online fandoms forever. Before the chaos, before the controversies, before the internet turned their lives inside out, there was just vibes. Nic and Olandria didn't plan to become the couple of Love Island USA Season 7. But it was obvious from the very first episode. Something about them just clicked. Nic, a 24-year-old registered nurse from Florida, wasn't your standard reality TV playboy. He was calm, centered. The guy who made people feel safe, literally and emotionally. Olandria, a 27-year-old elevator saleswoman from Alabama, better known as Bama Barbie, brought southern charm, confidence, and that glow reality TV producers dream about. Their chemistry wasn't staged or slow burn, it was instant. Viewers watched them kiss on day one, and the internet exploded. A black southern woman and a white Midwestern guy falling into something that felt real? TikTok edits, fan accounts, reaction videos. The Nicolandria hashtag was born overnight, and the fanbase only grew stronger with each episode. Even though they didn't win the $100,000 prize, finishing as runners-up behind Amaya and Brian, many fans said the real love story wasn't about the winners. It was about them. Because what Nic and Olandria had felt different. Not overproduced. Not performance. But genuine. And in the reality TV world, where couples often fizzle the second cameras stop rolling, that realness was enough to get people hooked. But the spotlight didn't just magnify their love. It also cast a blinding glare on everything around them. The attention, the praise, the obsession. It started building faster than anyone could control. And just beneath the surface, something darker was already forming. Because for every person celebrating their connection, someone else was watching with envy, bitterness, or hate. And as we'd all soon find out, that hate wasn't going to stay in the comment section. It was just a kiss. One moment on the very first day of Love Island USA. Barely a minute into the episode. But that single kiss between Nic and Olandria sent shockwaves that no one was fully prepared for, because this wasn't just about chemistry anymore. It was about representation. For many black viewers, seeing a dark-skinned black woman loved openly by a white man, and on national television no less, was more than just romantic. It felt personal. When the media caught up with Olandria after the season ended, she perfectly captured what so many had been feeling. In an interview with the New York Times, she said, "Watching me as a dark-skinned black woman, be yearned for and loved out loud by a fair-skinned male felt healing for so many black viewers." The quote struck a nerve. Some called it powerful. Others said it was overdue. Finally, a mainstream relationship that showed how affection for dark-skinned black women shouldn't be taboo or hidden in the shadows. But not everyone saw it that way. The backlash was swift in certain corners of the internet. Critics questioned why interracial love was still being treated as a cultural anomaly in 2025. Some accused her of playing into the narrative. Others dismissed the moment as emotionally manipulative or performative. Suddenly, their love story was no longer just about two people. It became a national conversation about race, desirability, colorism, and the complicated history behind black women in media. And whether people agreed with Olandria or not, one thing was undeniable. This wasn't just a reality TV romance anymore. It was a mirror. A mirror showing how uncomfortable society still is when certain kinds of love are put on display. But while social media debated what the kiss meant, few people noticed what was happening just underneath the surface, because quietly, the tide had already started to turn. What began as curiosity and commentary was slowly morphing into something toxic. And the next person to get caught in it would become ground zero for a scandal that would shake the entire Love Island fandom. Before Nic and Olandria were even an official couple, the show had already started unraveling. What looked like your typical season of Love Island USA, flirting, couples, eliminations, took a sharp, unexpected turn on July 6, 2025. That's when Sierra Ortega, one of the original cast members, was suddenly removed from the villa, while still paired up with Nic. At first, fans were confused. There was no clear explanation, no dramatic fight, no sudden betrayal on screen. But the truth broke online just hours later, and it set the tone for everything that would come next. Racist social media posts from 2024 had resurfaced, showing Sierra using anti-Asian slurs. Screenshots spread like wildfire across Twitter, TikTok, Reddit, and the reaction was immediate. Sierra issued an apology, claiming she didn't fully understand the meaning of the language she used. But by then, the damage was already done. And things didn't stop at online outrage. Someone angry enough to take it into the real world took a step far beyond cancel culture. They called ICE on Sierra's family. Let that sink in. A reality TV scandal spiraled into a real-life attempt to weaponize federal immigration enforcement against someone's loved ones. And whether it was an empty threat or a genuine tip, no one should ever have to wonder if a reality TV mistake could lead to a knock on their door from the government. That moment should have been the warning. It should have made the fandom pause and ask, when did we cross the line between accountability and vengeance? But that's not what happened. Instead, it became a template. A preview of how far viewers, the obsessive ones, the angry ones, might go when they decide they don't just dislike someone, they want to ruin them. And for Nic and Olandria, the Sierra situation was just a preview of how ugly things would get. Because the hate heading their way wasn't just about opinions or gameplay. It was about race, image, and the kind of disturbing creativity that trolls use when they've convinced themselves the targets deserve what's coming. They were next. And they had no idea how far it would go. By July 2025, Love Island was over. The cameras were off. The prize money had been claimed by another couple. And yet somehow, things were only just beginning for Nic and Olandria. Except, this wasn't the kind of beginning anyone hopes for. This was a descent. Fast, vicious, and terrifying. It started with the messages. Not comments. Not casual hate. Direct death threats, delivered to Olandria's inbox, her phone, and even her family's numbers. There were no fake accounts claiming, it's just a joke. These were deliberate, thought out sentences written by people who wanted her to read them and feel unsafe. Then came the moment that changed everything. In a Variety interview, Olandria opened up about the full extent of what she'd been receiving. And one incident in particular left readers stunned. Someone created a meme comparing Olandria to George Floyd, the black man murdered by police in a case that ignited protests around the globe. And in this joke, Love Island cast member Huda Mustafa was made to resemble the officer, kneeling on her. Let that horror sit with you for a second. A black woman who found love on television was being mocked using imagery tied to one of the most traumatizing racial events in modern American history, because she dared to date someone outside her race. Olandria's response? Calm, powerful, and heartbreaking. It's disgusting to say the least. And I don't understand how you take a love show and make such a comment like that. And she was right. This was a love show, not a battleground, not a political statement, not a space for racial trauma to be turned into entertainment. But the message was loud and clear. To some people, her love wasn't just controversial, it was threatening, offensive, something to rage against. The critiques weren't about who got voted off too early or who flirted with whom. They were about deserving to exist. About who has the right to be adored on a public stage, and who doesn't. And while most fans were still celebrating the couple, showering them with support on TikTok and reposting their best villa moments, a much darker force was quietly gathering under the surface. The moment when fan culture shifted into harassment culture had arrived. And the next wave would make this look tame. You'd think the worst was over once the show ended. Nic and Olandria made it out of the villa, into the real world, and had a fan base behind them eager to see what came next. But that fan base, it quickly became something else entirely. At first, they called themselves Nicolandria Nation. A flood of fan edits, couple compilations, TikToks racking up millions of views overnight. It was love on a massive scale. People wanted to see them move in together, get married, start a YouTube channel, post there every date night. Except it didn't feel like love for long. Soon, it turned into pressure. Every move Nic and Olandria made, or didn't make, sparked a wave of speculation. If they didn't post for a few days? Did they break up? If one of them wasn't wearing the other's hoodie? Is it fake? The audience that once championed their relationship now began analyzing it like a scandal in progress. And then came the doubters. Loud, opinionated, relentless. On August 27, 2025, fellow castmate Ace Green sat down for an interview with Complex's Speedy Mormon. And when asked about Nic and Olandria's relationship, he hesitated. Instead of celebrating their bond, he claimed Nic had once told him there was no romantic spark. That one phrase lit the match. Within hours, Reddit threads were popping off. TikTok was flooded with evidence of their body language, suggesting the romance was just for show. The theory. Nicolandria was a brand, not a couple. A performance built for followers and sponsorships. Then came Jess Hilarious, a comedian with a reputation for ruthless commentary. She went live and called their whole relationship phony. Just another couple, playing the game to keep the clicks coming. Those words stuck. And they weren't just hot takes, they were ammunition. The critics became more bold. The fans became more demanding. Every post, every silence, every facial expression now fed into this growing question. Was any of it real? But here's the part that no one seemed to ask. What happens to a relationship, not just a reality TV one, any relationship, when thousands of strangers are constantly pulling it apart like an open case file? For Nic and Olandria, the interrogation was constant. They weren't being asked to share their story, they were being asked to prove it. And when the pressure didn't break them, the attacks shifted again. The doubts weren't enough anymore. So some people decided to take it to a much darker place. As the public started questioning their love, something more insidious began brewing beneath the surface. Quiet at first. Hidden. It started in dark corners of Reddit threads, anonymous Twitter accounts, and encrypted group chats. Whispers about behind-the-scenes messages. Claims that fans or stalkers were no longer just talking. They were planning. Then, screenshots surfaced. Not verified. No mainstream coverage picked them up. But the rumors spread fast. According to the viral posts, there was an alleged private group chat circulating online. A chat where people didn't just talk badly about Nic and Olandria, they allegedly plotted ways to tear them down. And not in a petty, jealous, I don't like this couple kind of way. This was darker. Deliberate. Organized. Messages reportedly discussed fabricating evidence, specifically, doctored videos that falsely made it look like Nic used racial slurs. Let that sink in. Not catching someone being offensive. Not exposing a secret. But manufacturing hate speech to destroy someone's public image. Other claims included doxxing, leaking addresses and private phone numbers of Nic and Olandria's families. According to reports circulating on fan forums, their loved ones were targeted with threats, harassing calls, and intimidation tactics designed to terrorize. But the rabbit hole allegedly went deeper. Some messages in the leaked chat referenced hiring witches to place hexes on the couple. A few posts reportedly joked, or maybe didn't joke, about finding hitmen on the dark web. That part crosses from disturbing into almost surreal. But the fact that it's even being publicly discussed shows how deeply unhinged the discourse had become. Let's be clear here. Direct hit: there's no verified evidence proving these chats actually happened. No confirmed participants. No one has stepped forward to verify screenshots. But whether true or not, the rumors exploded anyway. Multiple fan groups began blaming each other. Screenshots circulated in waves. Names were dropped. Infighting broke out across platforms, each group accusing the other of being the real villains behind the hate. Denials flew. Receipts were posted. It was chaos. And all the while, Nic and Olandria stayed mostly quiet. They hadn't asked to become mythologized. They hadn't expected to become targets. And they certainly hadn't imagined they'd be the center of a digital manhunt based on lies. But for those still following closely, one term kept coming up that no one could fully explain. Strippergate. A name dropped repeatedly in tweet threads, obscure comment sections, and Reddit rabbit holes. No clear explanation. No coverage. Just a repeated phrase that hinted at another layer of scandal, one that still hasn't come into full view. Whatever it was, its presence acted like gasoline poured quietly in the background, waiting for a spark. And it wouldn't be long before things exploded again. But this time, it wouldn't be in private group chats. It would happen live, in front of thousands, caught on camera for everyone to see. By October 2025, the situation surrounding Nic and Olandria was already teetering on the edge. An explosive mix of rumors, harassment, and conspiracy theories. But what happened next took the drama live. October 30th. What should have been a fun, casual live stream featuring Love Island cast member Huda Mustafa and her boyfriend Lewis Russell quickly became something else. During the stream, with thousands of viewers tuned in, a comment appeared in the chat. A racial slur. Targeted directly at Olandria. It was one of those moments, the kind that feels like everyone just froze. And the part that made it so much worse? Huda and Lewis appeared to laugh. There was no clapback. No shutdown of the comment. Just a brief, uncomfortable moment where their reaction looked more like amusement than outrage. Social media didn't need time to catch up. It erupted immediately. Clips spread at lightning speed. People called it racism. Others called it cowardice. TikToks calling out the couple reached millions of views in just hours. But as always, there was more to the story. Huda and Lewis addressed the situation shortly after, claiming they weren't laughing at the slur itself, but were caught off guard, overwhelmed by what had been said, and unsure how to react in the moment. Huda went further, publicly apologizing and announcing a donation to the NAACP to show good faith and accountability. It wasn't just PR cleanup. After days of silence, several cast members came out to vocally support Olandria, releasing statements condemning the behavior and rallying around her with solidarity. But even with the apologies, the damage was already done. Because here's the hardest part of all, Olandria wasn't even there. She wasn't watching the stream. She didn't see the slur when it happened. She learned about it after, from other people. From trending hashtags. From news alerts. Imagine minding your own business, living your life, and then seeing a racial slur aimed at you go viral on a stream where two people from your own reality TV cast appear to laugh. Whether their laughter came from shock or something worse, the result was the same. Olandria became the punchline of a moment she never signed up for. And for someone already navigating non-stop death threats, edited fake slur videos, and whispers of organized harassment, this was just confirmation that nowhere, not even among peers, was truly safe. Meanwhile, another word continued spreading with no answers in sight. Strippergate. It hovered in the comment section like a shadow. Unexplained. Undefined. But looming. Some claimed it related to Olandria. Others said it was about Nic. None of it verified. all of it laced in shame. Whatever it was, no one could confirm the truth. But that didn't matter. The internet doesn't wait for evidence when it smells scandal. And while trolls hunted for rumors and fan accounts argued over morality, one question kept getting buried. Why was this couple still being dragged through hell for simply choosing each other? Olandria had already taken hits that would have made most people disappear. But the worst part. She was still facing one obstacle no one talks enough about, a force more subtle, but just as destructive. And we're talking about it next. For all the noise, the threats, accusations, live streams, and fake scandals, there's one undercurrent flowing through the entire Nicolandria controversy that can't be ignored. It's not trendy to talk about. It doesn't go viral in fan edits. And yet, it may be the most uncomfortable truth driving all of this. Colorism. Because let's be real, what Nic and Olandria experienced isn't just normal online hate. Lots of couples from reality shows get criticized. People love to argue about who's fake, who's chasing clout. That comes with the territory. But the kind of personalized harassment Olandria received, the way her looks, her tone, her existence was dissected, it didn't feel random. It felt targeted. And when you take a step back, you'll see a pattern that's been playing out in media and fandom for decades. Olandria isn't just any black woman on television. She's a dark-skinned black woman in a highly visible relationship with a white man. And while people love to claim we've moved past racism, or that representation isn't a problem anymore, the truth tells a different story. Lighter-skinned women in similar relationships, often celebrated. Their love stories get the R factor. The brand deals. The baby predictions by episode 3. But darker-skinned women? They face a different curve entirely. There are piles of studies, think pieces, and testimonials that point to colorism, an internalized bias, even within communities of color, that favors lighter skin and subtly, sometimes viciously, delegitimize or devalues darker-skinned individuals. And you can see how that bias plays out in Olandria's case. Her love story was viewed not just with curiosity, but with suspicion. Fans asked why Nic was into her. They criticized her tone, her appearance, her mannerisms in ways they never would have if she fit the mold of a safer reality TV love interest. She didn't get to be just the pretty girl, or the confident one. She had to defend her humanity. And when she spoke up, even once, to say that seeing a dark-skinned black woman loved out loud meant something, a portion of the internet exploded. Because for them, a woman like her existing in that kind of spotlight wasn't just unusual, it was threatening. But here's what matters most. Olandria never asked to be a symbol. She didn't join Love Island to spark a social movement. She fell in love. On camera. With a man who chose her out of everyone else, without hesitating, without trying to justify it. And that, in itself, became a target. So while blogs debated drama, and fans reposted screenshots about supposed feuds, the real issue was sitting quietly in plain sight. The question no one wanted to fully face. Would any of this backlash exist, at least to this level, if Olandria looked different? For Nic and Olandria, love was never the problem. It was always the lens people viewed it through. And once that lens cracked, their only option was to find peace by doing the one thing the internet hates most: going silent. By the end of 2025, Nic and Olandria had been through more than most reality TV couples face in a lifetime. And while the internet screamed louder, dug deeper, and speculated harder, they made a different kind of move. They pulled back. Not with a splashy PR statement. Not with a "we're taking a break" notes app post. Just a quiet decision shared in subtle ways. Fewer stories. Fewer posts. No explanations. For a couple who built their entire followership with transparency, whose fan base revolved around their day-to-day love story, this was a turning point. And some people didn't take it well. Fans begged for more content. Conspiracies spread overnight. But Olandria knew what she was doing. In one quiet interview, she explained it best. We face constant nitpicking and discourse over the smallest things. It got to a point where I thought, Maybe we don't need to share as much anymore. That sentence, honest, simple, hit different. Because this couple didn't just step into the spotlight. They were dragged under it. They didn't just get famous, they got analyzed, picked apart, tested, and twisted in every direction possible. But choosing silence, that was their reset, their power move. And even without daily content, the love didn't stop. In fact, it magnified. During Glamour's annual Women of the Year event, the hashtag #Glamourandria trended like wildfire. Fan accounts brought that single appearance to more than 1.4 million TikTok views and 2.8 million X impressions. Major pop culture pages couldn't get enough. People weren't just watching anymore. They were cheering, protecting, defending. And then something unexpected happened. Kim Kardashian and her daughter North West publicly became fans of Nicolandria. Not behind-the-scenes support. Public. Vocal. Kim even invited Nick to do a photo shoot with her. And North. She FaceTimed the couple to talk about how much she adored their vibe. That's next-level validation, not just from fans, but from culture makers. So while critics were still stuck questioning whether Nic and Olandria were a product of good lighting and smart PR, the couple had already outgrown the need for proof. They had shifted into something else altogether. A movement of resilience. The likes, the pressure, the critiques, they weren't holding value anymore. What mattered was what Nic and Olandria had kept, each other. And just when people thought they had faded from the spotlight, they leveled up once again. Not in a way that fed the social media machine, but in a way that demanded respect. At a certain point, drama stops being just drama. Screenshots stop being petty. Doxing stops being just trolling. And fabricating racist videos? That's no longer content. That's defamation. So as 2025 came to a chaotic close, one question started circling around every Love Island update, every viral Nicolandria tweet, every whispered rumor from the shadows of Reddit. Were Nic and Olandria going to sue? Death threats, doxing campaigns, harassment of their families, and rumors of organized retaliation. It all adds up to something much bigger than internet hate. It adds up to potential criminal activity. And here's what the law says. Death threats, especially over social media and sent multiple times, violate federal law. That's not opinion. That's statute. Doxing, posting private addresses or phone numbers without consent, qualifies as harassment or stalking in many U.S. states and can be prosecuted. And defamation. That's one of the clearest legal doors available. If someone doctors a video to make it look like you said something you didn't, especially something inflammatory, like a racial slur, that's classic grounds for a lawsuit. And yet, to this day, there's no official statement from Nic or Olandria confirming legal action. Mainstream media outlets haven't reported on any lawsuits or even threats of one, at least not publicly. But that doesn't mean conversations aren't happening behind the scenes. Because here's the thing. Most public figures, especially ones rising fast in entertainment, don't reveal they're talking to attorneys. They don't advertise when prosecutors get involved. And they definitely don't post about police reports tied to threats on family members' lives. But anyone who's followed this situation up close knows. They'd have every reason to lawyer up. In defamation cases, the intent to harm matters. Creating or spreading fake content with the deliberate goal of destroying a reputation. That moves the needle. Especially when it involves claims relating to race, morality, and character that could impact future income, jobs, and safety. And when it comes to digital footprints, few things are harder for trolls to erase. Even group chats hidden in encrypted apps can leave trails. Even throwaway accounts have IPs. All of this matters if the couple decides to act. Because there's a point where content creation becomes character assassination. Where hate becomes harassment. Where online fandom stops being messy and becomes dangerous. From a legal perspective, what happened to Nic and Olandria might not just be unethical, it could be actionable. But whether they ultimately step into court or stay silent behind the scenes, the world is already watching. And what they have already done speaks volumes. They've stayed calm, built careers, loved each other through it. But every day that goes by, there's one thing everyone keeps wondering. How much more would they need to take before justice becomes the only option left on the table? After everything, the death threats, the fake videos, the live stream embarrassment, the speculation, the silence, you'd think this relationship would have broken by now. Most would have. Even healthy, private relationships struggle under pressure. But Nic and Olandria, they're not just surviving. They're evolving, quietly, steadily, side by side. January 2026 finds them still together, still choosing each other, still showing up, maybe not every day on camera, but in the ways that actually matter. When you rewind the tape, it's hard to believe just how much they've walked through in less than a year. They made it through the Love Island reunion episode, aired back on August 25, 2025. They made it through the darkest corners of social media, the viral hate, the coordinated harassment, the endless questions about whether what they had was even real. And through it all, they held their ground. Nic, the once soft-spoken nurse from Florida, has grown into a rising public figure on his own terms. Not playing into the drama, but expanding into creative work as a DJ, booking 5 to 6 new sets for 2026. He even completed the New York City Marathon on November 2nd with Team Strava, making it his third full marathon, one of which was attached to an Ironman race. Meanwhile, Olandria's thriving in a long-overdue space of her own. She told E! that her calendar is fully booked until May 2026, and she's finally chasing what was once just a childhood dream, a real, paid, professional modeling career. None of that happened because of pity or because of drama. It happened because behind every viral theory, every headline, every fake rumor, they kept working, kept pushing, kept building. And for those who thought they represented something controversial, they're now being celebrated as elite. Glamour magazine didn't just post about them, they put them on the cover. November 4, 2025, they appeared hand in hand at Glamour's Women of the Year event. September 2025, they walked the red carpet at the MTV Video Music Awards. And behind closed doors, some of the most powerful names in entertainment are reaching out, not to investigate them, but to support them. Remember that FaceTime moment with Northwest? That wasn't staged. Kim Kardashian and her daughter are genuine fans. Kim even brought Nic in for a photo shoot in November. That's not a fluke. That's culture co-signing their love. And just when the haters thought they disappeared, Nic said the 3 words that sent fans spiraling. Nicolandria for life. That moment sealed it. Not as a gimmick. Not for likes. Just a quiet truth from a man who, with everything to walk away from, stayed. And suddenly, the narrative changed. This wasn't a storyline we were watching anymore. This was real life. And they're still living it. After everything, the death threats, the fake videos, the live stream embarrassment, the speculation, the silence, you'd think this relationship would have broken by now. Most would have. Even healthy, private relationships struggle under pressure. But Nic and Olandria, they're not just surviving. They're evolving, quietly, steadily, side by side. January 2026 finds them still together, still choosing each other, still showing up, maybe not every day on camera, but in the ways that actually matter. When you rewind the tape, it's hard to believe just how much they've walked through in less than a year. They made it through the Love Island reunion episode, aired back on August 25, 2025. They made it through the darkest corners of social media, the viral hate, the coordinated harassment, the endless questions about whether what they had was even real. And through it all, they held their ground. Nic, the once soft-spoken nurse from Florida, has grown into a rising public figure on his own terms. Not playing into the drama, but expanding into creative work as a DJ, booking 5 to 6 new sets for 2026. He even completed the New York City Marathon on November 2nd with Team Strava, making it his third full marathon, one of which was attached to an Ironman race. Meanwhile, Olandria's thriving in a long overdue space of her own. She told E! that her calendar is fully booked until May 2026, and she's finally chasing what was once just a childhood dream, a real, paid, professional modeling career. None of that happened because of pity or because of drama. It happened because behind every viral theory, every headline, every fake rumor, they kept working, kept pushing, kept building. And for those who thought they represented something controversial, they're now being celebrated as elite. Glamour magazine didn't just post about them, they put them on the cover. November 4, 2025. They appeared hand in hand at Glamour's Women of the Year event. September 2025. They walked the red carpet at the MTV Video Music Awards. And behind closed doors, some of the most powerful names in entertainment are reaching out, not to investigate them, but to support them. Remember that FaceTime moment with Northwest? That wasn't staged. Kim Kardashian and her daughter are genuine fans. Kim even brought Nick in for a photo shoot in November. That's not a fluke. That's culture co-signing their love. And just when the haters thought they disappeared, Nick said the 3 words that sent fans spiraling. Nicolandria for life. That moment sealed it. Not as a gimmick. Not for likes. Just a quiet truth from a man who, with everything to walk away from, stayed. And suddenly, the narrative changed. This wasn't a storyline we were watching anymore. This was real life. And they're still living it.